Well, it's been a long time since I've made one of these. I'm sure everything's exactly the same as when I last made one though, so there's no big world events to talk about or anything. Things are a bit different around here though, as I'm sure you've noticed. I've been doing a lot more Let's Play content, which is fun, even though no one watches. I also stream on Twitch, and not a lot of people join me there either. But it's fine, I'm doing great. Living through unprecedented times, and it's awesome. I'm sure I'm making a great first impression. For anyone who doesn't know me, hi. I'm Possum. I'd say I live in a trash can, but it's not that bad. I do eat a lot of garbage, though, and I do lay around pretending I'm dead a lot. Anyway, welcome to my YouTube show called What Makes It Awesome, where I talk about video games and what makes them awesome. Sometimes. The only one I've made before this has been about Resident Evil 6, so it's been a minute. Let's talk about a game everyone's already talked about. Fran Bow is a dark fantasy point-and-click adventure game that fully came out like 6 years ago. It was made by a Swedish development team called Kill Monday Games, who have since gone on to make another creepy little point-and-click adventure called Little Misfortune. Apparently it was crowdfunded on Indiegogo back in like 2013, and it released in a series of chapters. Long story short, a lot of other probably better YouTubers have already taken a crack at examining it, dissecting it, poking around in its guts with a stick. Ew. And a huge handful of the biggest Let's Players and streamers out there have already also played through it, so why am I here to talk about it? What is there left to talk about? I could explain the story, or more accurately what the story symbolizes, but that's kind of already been done. I could just upload my Twitch VODs and have you guys see how I reacted to it while I was actually playing the game, but I don't think that's that interesting either. I guess all that's left to really talk about is the personal impact the game had on me, both from a storytelling perspective and from its critical lens of mental health. I know not everyone has the same mental health journey, and a lot of us are a little bit too overwhelmed by it to talk about it all the time, but I think Fran Bow and a lot of other horror games, honestly, are useful tools in me examining myself and humanity. That all sounds very pretentious, and I urge you to take this with a grain of salt because I am an idiot, and I don't know what I'm talking about pretty much any of the time. But either way, I do want to share my experience and what I think personally makes Fran Bow awesome. Also, there's gonna be spoilers ahead, so please, if you haven't played the goddamn game, play it. It's great. You'll love it. But I do talk a lot about the story in this video. The game starts up and everything's fine. Fran has two loving parents that are happy and definitely alive, and a cat named Mr. Midnight. Already I relate to Fran and her love for her little black cat because I have one of those too, and I love him very much. There's also Aunt Grace, who takes good care of little Fran. Soup. One night, Fran's playing with Mr. Midnight when suddenly, a demon shows up. She doesn't know it yet, but this is Remor, the Prince of Darkness. He's a strange, shadowy-like creature called a Kamala that feeds off of fear and despair. Now, there's a lot of evidence in the game that points to the fact that he may not be real and may just be a figment of her mental instability. There's also a lot of evidence that suggests that he's totally real and this is all actually happening. So I say go with whatever you feel, because clearly there's not just one right answer here. Anyway, Remor likes doing this thing where he manipulates and gaslights people into doing some jacked up stuff. He's a real girl boss. But oh no, now what happened? Fran's parents are in a bunch of different pieces on the floor like some Lego people. And there's just a lot of blood.
And let me see what you have! No!
So obviously Fran's spooked. She runs away like a Scooby-Doo character. She trips, falls, and dies? Maybe? But we come to inside of Oswald Asylum where we meet Dr. Dern and discover that Mr. Midnight is upsettingly not here with us. We're given some weird red pills that do this. Holy shit. Fucking Christ. I think this medicine is defective. Can we take it back and try again, Doc? And now we're finally in control, sort of. It is a point-and-click adventure, so as much control as that gives us. Objective 1. Get the hell out of here and find my cat. But we're trapped in here and there's puzzles afoot. It's your basic point-and-click stuff, you know, make a key out of random objects here, draw a picture to get this kid's cane from him, find the nurse's handgun. But at any point you want, you can take your pills. Let's pop a pill. Fucking Christ, what? The pills shift your vision to a parallel universe that is eventually given the name of the Ultra Reality, where you can see each patient dealing with their own Kamala who feeds off their misfortune. Oh boy. He sure looks like that now, and he's got a little ghost friend. There's also just a bunch of other really fucked up shit you can see on these, and what I would call a Spirit Halloween store's worth of blood just everywhere. Just everywhere. This is arguably what I'd call the most straightforward horror section of the game. The imagery here is incredibly grotesque, but pointed. Each vision gives us some new monstrosity to confront, each with a specific purpose aside from just being spooky. There's lots of other kids here too. They're all suffering. Lots of dead children in this part, man. It's kind of heartbreaking, honestly. It's equal parts horrific and tragic to see what becomes of them within the Ultra reality. Some of these visions are incredibly unnerving, but they all seem to showcase some form of insecurity or trauma related to the one they're most attached to.
I will laugh at you. I will lie to you.
This is, of course, analogous to real-world mental illness. I can only speak from my own experiences with depression and anxiety, but some of the things that the shadows say can often cloud over a lot of the things that we should know to be true. The fear and despair that builds up inside you feels like a black shadowy cloud that's just whispering false words into your brain. It can immobilize you. It can overtake who you are and what you love. It can make even the simplest of things feel impossible. It will lie to you, and it will laugh at you. This is a hard part of the script to write, and reading it isn't fun either. Depression's a hard thing to describe, and it's not even the only thing that this game tackles. It's just the only lens I have to connect with it. Other people will gravitate to its discussion of other mental illness topics, but it's incredibly important to note when a game or any other piece of art like this speaks to you and resonates with you on that kind of level. And this is just the opening chapter of the game. Also, there's just like a shit ton of clown paintings, and I don't know what that's about. Eventually, Fran manages to escape the asylum and properly start her search for Mr. Midnight with hopes to get back to Aunt Grace's house. This is where the game takes a really fantastical turn into pure imaginative fantasy. Think Alice in Wonderland or Wizard of Oz. We got a big ol' ant with a beard with his pet beetle pig who apparently ate my cat. And there's only one way to get him out of there. Oh boy. This is happening. That is not my cat. Fuck. Let's just comb this rat and keep moving. What's this? We're going into a well? Well, that's just great. We'll waltz right into that well where there's a bunch of well water. Well, we appear to be in someone's house. These someones. Clara and Mia. They're, very close twin sisters. And they've kidnapped Mr. Midnight. Because of course they have. And it looks like we'll have to do something about that. I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the obvious connection we're supposed to make here to a certain fascist regime and a certain evil mad scientist. The game is set in 1944, after all. The real-life demon Joseph Mengele set his sights on twins specifically, which Clara and Mia here are. He decided that we should spend eternity together. I'm getting some fucking Angel of Death vibes. For sure. Throughout the game, you can find documents that show that Dr. Oswald, the owner of the asylum, also had an obsession with twins. He was the one that experimented on Clara and Mia, sewing them together. This killed them in the process, and they dumped the body down a... you guessed it, well. Small vignettes like this really serve to broaden the scope of Fran's journey here, both through her personal quest to find Mr. Midnight, but also that of the asylum, and things outside of Fran's purview that still control her life. But we need our cat, and they threatened to kill him, so they gotta go. Bye-bye, sad girls. We're finally reunited with Mr. Midnight, but now we've got to escape. Luckily, there's a toad and some baking soda. Just what we needed. We eventually end up in a charming and mystical place called the Thirsta. They planted me in a little basket. What's that? Why is Fran a tree? Well, Remora attacked us on a bridge earlier, and we fell, and now she's a tree? I got nothing else for you. Athirst is the most colorful and imaginative section of the game. It's full of all sorts of different bug and vegetable creatures just living. It feels almost at odds with the rest of the game's dark and gloomy atmosphere, and aside from a few scares sprinkled throughout, it kinda acts as a respite for both Fran and the player. This is where we learn about the 5 realms of essential existence, FREE for short. You see, Remora and the Kamalas come from the 5th reality, a realm of darkness. Humanity comes from the 3rd, and Athirst is in the 2nd. And these little white ghosties? Those are something called Valakas, and they come from the 1st reality, a realm of pure light. Valakas are the embodiment of virtue and goodness, while the Kamalas embody darkness and fear. And Valakas strive to help where they can. You wanna know what I think the coolest thing about them is, though? A Kamala can actually become one. A dark shadow of sorrow and despair can actually become a being of virtue and life, and I think that's beautiful. I think that shows that there's not only hope in this world to overcome your personal demons, but that you have to embrace that part of you that scares you the most to overcome them. In my experience, you don't overcome trauma by rejecting it or killing it. You have to embrace it. You transform it in a way. It stays a part of you, and I think it's really hopeful to think that instead of weighing you down like a sack of potatoes, it can actually be given new life to help not only yourself, but others. I don't know. I'm not a licensed anything, so like I said, take it with a grain of salt, but I just feel like it's really neat, and it may be one of the most important things to take away from this game, that feeling of hope, that it's not all darkness and shadow even when it feels like it should be. There's 2 more chapters left in the game after this point, and in the next one we get to meet Itward, Fran's imaginary friend. He takes us for a ride in his flying machine, which sounds sketchy as all hell, and we begin the ride home. Finally. Except, uh-oh, Fran can't have anything nice in her life, and the machine's attacked by Kamalas. God. This leads to a truly heartbreaking scene, as if there weren't enough of those already, where Fran and Itward have to exchange goodbyes as the machine crashes. She holds Mr. Midnight close as Itward kneels down with them and promises to always take care of her. It's another touching moment of real sincerity from this wild ride of a game, and it got me right in the cry spot. In the next chapter, we actually make it home, but before we can get inside, Dr. Dern from the asylum catches up to us and rushes us into his car. Again, this seems very sketchy, but sure. He tells Fran that he was fired from the asylum for knowing too much, and that Fran is actually considered to be dead this whole time. Which, that's just a lot of information to take in all at once. Hey, Doc, I don't know psychology that well, but I don't think a 10-year-old girl should be opening up the coffins of her parents and possibly herself. Just a thought. The 2 are attacked again by Ramor, and things really start to become surreal and twisted past this point. There's tons of intensely strange imagery in this last chapter as we actually get to explore a bit of the 5th reality. Floating rooms, strange and disturbing creatures, and pathways and passages that would make MC Escher pee his pants. At the end of it all, though, is the truth. Well, one version of it, I guess. We're met by Ramor, who shows us what really happened that night with the knife and the dead parents. It was Fran. At least, that's what Ramor shows us. This leads to the final sequence where lots of reveals happen really quickly. Dr. Oswald's here with Aunt Grace, who turns out to be a total bitch and kills Mr. Midnight by throwing him into the void. Cool. Fran then starts to attack Aunt Grace because obviously I would do the exact same thing in her shoes, and she's suddenly shot by Dr. Oswald. She's dying. The end shows us as Itward returns and pushes back the Doctor and Aunt Grace and takes Fran into the sky with a fantastical creature we met in Athursta. And look, Mr. Midnight's even here. Is this a happy ending? Is it even an ending? Is any of this even happening? We don't know. And I think we're better off for it. The ambiguity of this ending really pushes the idea that we don't know how much of any of this game was real. We're left to question all of it. And those questions lead to some incredibly creative answers. There's tons of videos out there about the real meaning of it all, what's real, what's not, tons of game theories about what everything represents, but that's the thing I find most beautiful about it. It was all real. It was all not. It was all the story of Fran Bow. We know a bit more about the game world now since Little Misfortune came out, and it actually takes place in the same universe and kind of expands on some of the FREE stuff that's touched upon here, but that's a whole nother thing. This game is beautiful in its depiction of its core ideas, that light versus dark. Each character is given a very unique personality that embodies both aspects of it, and leaves us with the thought that darkness and light coexist within everyone. I found a quote from one of the developers that talks about how this game was inspired by what life gives you and takes away from you, and I think that's a wonderful way to put it. I can't stress enough how much I enjoyed this game and how much it ended up meaning to me, but if I had to narrow it down, it's that emotional resonance that's truly what makes Fran Bow awesome. Thanks for watching. Hey, so that sure was a thing. I want to take time again to thank you all for watching and sticking around to the end of this video. It really means a lot to me that you guys enjoy any of the content that I put out. I'm really proud of this video, and I'm really happy with the end product that we got here, so share it with some friends or something. I don't know. That'd be cool. Also, hit the like button and leave a comment about your favorite thing that I said. Or just make fun of me, I guess. If you want to see more of me, you can always go follow me on twitch.tv/possumgmr, or you could subscribe to me on YouTube here. If you want to follow me on social media, I have an Instagram, a Facebook, and a Twitter. I'm most active on the Twitter, so that's probably where you'll find me. I'm also on TikTok, so there's that, I guess. But with all that out of the way, again, thank you all so much. I love you.